So, welcome, Lori. It's good to see you.
Hey Janice, it's good to see you too.
Now,
Looking good with the blue
I
specs.
know, I know. It's only people with glasses allowed on this session. So, yeah, we're rocking it. We are
Love it.
definitely rocking it.
Yeah.
So, everyone that's either listening to the recording or if you're on live, there are comments. Please do comment anything that you hear, any stories that you would like to offer. We'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this on the recording, please make sure that you connect with myself and Lori Richardson, and make sure you have a look at our bios on LinkedIn. If you do have any questions after this session, because it is a very quick 25 30 minutes, please do continue to the conversation and post them to either myself or Lori. Now, we've done quite a few of these and we decided we're going to have some fun on this one. We're really just going to go with where the wind takes us. So Lori, what we are talking about are the three critical strategies that sales leaders, what they need to do now. So what would be your three critical pillars or strategies that you think sales leaders need to be doing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I hear and see a lot of people in companies who are struggling. Okay, it's been a weird year. I don't know anyone who disagrees with that. If you do, good for
Right.
you. If you're not having a weird year, that's great. A lot of us are having a weird year. I talked to someone this week who said, my pipeline is full, but nothing's closing. So the things that I think about, I go back to the fundamentals, which are always the pillars for me in times that are good or times that are tougher. The most primary thing for me is mindset, and I'd love to expand on that a little more later. The second thing is about, having a process and working a consistent process, no matter what. If you know it works, work it, but also do a little brainstorming on the side. The third one is brainstorm to make sure that, things haven't changed so much that your process isn't working. And this is where the art part of the we do a lot with science in sales, you and I, but this is where the art is. What, I'm going to bounce some ideas off of some people in my company, outside of my company, and see what they're doing. And it's a game changer for me to watch people who are newer in sales, who are really, I always try to find the most successful people. And I've always learned since I was in my 20s, that success leaves clues. So look for what successful people are doing. If the timing is different now, what are they doing now that's different that can help you? And then try those and A/B test things.
Love that. Love that. When you were talking, I was thinking of Scale Your Sales podcast. I get the privilege of interviewing experts and leaders like yourself. And literally every time I hear something, I'm thinking of somebody that said something similar, or what they're doing with their sales team. Your success certainly leaves clues, and that's why it's such an honor to speak to people that are very busy, but actually they're the ones that are always willing to share the strategies that are working for them in their company.
Yeah, and such simple things like mindset. When people think, oh, sure, mindset's important. I mean, in tougher times, it's fundamentally important every day. You're not thinking, it's going to be like yesterday, or this is a tough week, this is a tough month. This is happening this month. That's why I think, those are all limiting beliefs that a lot of us don't even think about, that they just go on in our heads, and you've got to catch them. And you've got to acknowledge that you have it. You don't want to get rid of them, because I think it's maybe impossible to get rid of limiting beliefs. But instead, I like to acknowledge them and smile and go, I see what you're doing there, little brain. But I'm not going to go that way today. I'm going to take that and that limiting belief, and I'm going to turn it into, well, what's wrong with this month, or what? So what if people are on vacation or holidays? It's okay, because there are people that are working right now that need our help. So it's a matter of really tuning into that. And I'm telling you, that'll eliminate fundamental problems with the team, with leadership. It's so important to do, just like athletes.
I think that's a really interesting point, because you talked about mindset and then a consistent process and brainstorming, but actually you almost need a process for the mindset to actually stay on top of the mindset, because we have the monkey on our back, the negative self-talk, and it's going on all the time. And I really like your strategy of actually just acknowledging it, not blocking it out, but saying, I see what you're doing here. I think that's a really great strategy, almost naming it. Oh, so you've come back to visit me, and, kind of laughing at it, really. That may be your strategy, but it'd be lovely to hear other people's. How do they keep their mindset in check? And their limiting beliefs, how do they make sure that is not undermining their aspirations and their activities?
And for me, it's every morning. I think about that before I sit down, when I'm doing my preparation for getting to the office. I think about some great things that will happen today, because you don't know if they will or not. It's like it doesn't hurt me any to say this might be the day that big deal closes, or this might be the day, because I still close deals. I know you do too, Janice. We're not these high on the mountaintop people who just tell people what to do. Like, we do this.
That would be nice, Lori, wouldn't it? That would be lovely. Yeah. But
maybe someday.
one day we'll grow up and be like that.
But every day, I'm reaching out and talking to people. That's another part of my process, is that I want to talk to at least 3 people every day.
Yeah.
And so if I do that, and it's so easy to get bogged down. Oh, I got a project and working on this big thing. Make some phone calls, pick up the phone, or do a LinkedIn message, or, WhatsApp, or connect with someone in another way. And you'll be surprised at how many good things can happen from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a morning process which starts with a meditation practice. Every time I miss it, my day just doesn't go to plan. And it's almost like thinking about bringing your day into existence, that you decide this is what it's going to be. Today's going to be the day where, a big deal lands in my lap. But if you do not think that way, it's not going to happen. So you have to, put it out there in the universe, and in order for it to manifest it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think it's important that sales leaders recognize that they're human too, and that if their mindset is right, then the mindset of the team is right. So they actually have to work a lot on themselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what development's all about. Someone was telling me, that's why doctors call what they do a practice. Right?
Yeah.
Even doctors don't have all the answers. I think we all know that. The older we get, the more we know that we're aware of that. But we're all working at this. We don't have all of the answers to what makes everything happen. We have to try different things, and then keep at it, and try them again, and not give up, and say, well, if Janice wanted to talk to me, she'd return my email. That's just not true. Yeah. Janice is busy. Janice may have seen it. I was telling you that I'm switching to a new email process, and I'm just making sure that I know where all my emails are, let alone, it could be a technical situation. Luckily it's not. It's a really good system, but I'm having to relearn where things are. So You can't just assume. Don't assume until Janice tells me, you know what, Lori, I thought about it. We decided not to go forward with this, and here's why. And she has a valid reason. Now I'm good. But until I get to that point, it's upon me to keep following up with Janice in some manner. It doesn't mean I'm going to harass her or hassle her all the time, but I will check back with her. I'll comment on her social media. Someone did that to me this week that I owed a response to. And I was like, I know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just like my little voice, it's like, I know what you're doing.
But it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
And it's true. It's thinking sometimes, sales, it's known that sales reps give up too early, way too early. And we have to follow up. They often follow once or twice and that's it. They drop it. But actually, it's on the 10th time. It's never on the first, rarely on the first. So you have to keep going. And I can understand the mindset. I don't want to harass this person and all of that. But actually, you're never other people's priorities. You're never anyone else's priority. So just those reminders, the time may be not right now, but it will be right at some point. And that's why it now takes 10 followers up. But you don't do it, 10 emails going out on the, you've got to be
forward.
Exactly.
Regarding my email. Don't know if you saw this.
A little bit more creative than that. And as Lori, as you've just said, comment on their social media as a reminder to that email, and you don't need to mention the email, but it's going to make that link. So you've got to be clever, but you have to follow up a good 10, 20 times for you to become their priority.
Yeah, I'm an advisor now for a company called Fixer.ai, and I posted a note yesterday on LinkedIn, which goes to all of your connections when you have a new job. Of course, some people think it's a brand new full-time job for me, but I knew that it would reach a lot of people, and I'm still going to post a message about it, but it was, it's just a good thing to do when you're in that position, when you have something to share with people, or a newsletter, like newsletters go to everybody in LinkedIn that you're connected to the first time you put a LinkedIn newsletter out. So there's some really fundamental things that you can do to get out there. It's not just, I sent a direct message, I didn't hear back. I mean, then try something else. Send a letter. I posted also this week about mailing letters, cards, snail mail, as we call it. And you can actually send them, you can send digital cards as well. And you can have services do it on your behalf. So you don't even have to sign, and you can still send a very caring message. I heard one of the best things yesterday, Janice, from a guy named Jesse Itzler. He's the husband of Sarah Blakely from Spanx.
Yeah.
But Jesse, in his own right, is hugely successful. He had a fractional private jet company and sold it. And he's done some very, very big things. And he gave 5 points for, things that he wished he knew when he was younger. And, one of them was in reaching out to people, reach out on somebody's birthday, which is great. But also, if you know that their father passed away a year ago and they posted about it and it was very hard on them, people will send a condolence card. And he was saying, the thousands of people I'm connected to, one person sent me a card on the anniversary of my dad's passing 2 years prior. And he said, you think I know who that guy is? Like, it was very touching. And so there's a lot of things you can do that don't take money, but they take thought and a process, like we were talking about.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to present what I think are 3 critical strategies for sales leaders that they need to do now, and see what you think to these, Lori. Okay. So first is deal management, and then coaching to optimize your sales team, and then implementing a customer-centric buying operation. So Deal management. Like you have an aha moment. So on my Scale Yourselves at podcast, Mick Gossett, who's the CEO of Joint Flow, came on and he talked about today, now, sales leaders, it's all about deal management. He said it's 80% deal management and only 20% sales process, sales methodology, whichever you use. And that was an aha. It really made me think. And it's almost like lots of people are kind of talking about it, but he put a stake in the sand between the 80-20. And then that's kind of like in the conversation, there's lots of aspects that came through in terms of how he implements that as a sales leader in his team and how he enables his team around that and the successes that he's had from that. And then afterwards, I found a McKinsey research, and according to their study, that if you optimize a deal management process, you're 25% more likely to increase revenue. So there was the stats to kind of back it up. So that's the reason why this is the kind of the top of my tree in terms of what sales leaders need to be doing now. But it has an operational aspect to it. Once you decide that it's around 80%, you're focusing on deal management, you need to think about, who are the customers that you're going to spend that time with in order to enable them to manage the deal through their processes, and how your processes need to change that, and the kind of people you have on your team that's capable and able to do that. So the second one, coaching. Coaching and optimizing your sales team. You've got to have the right people in the right seats to do the right job in order to manage those deals going through. But also in managing the deals, it's a longer sales cycle, but you've got to have the coaching support along with that. And so that's why this is my number two. And you and I know all too well, Lori, how important coaching is from the process that we both use and the research that's come out of that.
Yeah.
But to back that up, CSO's insights found that companies that have a strong coaching culture are 17% higher win rates. So the stats to back that up. But also on my the live session I did with Andy, he's a top sales leader, and coaching is his go-to and his everything. And we talked a lot about that in our previous live session. So coaching in order to bring your B players up to A players, it's got to be around coaching rather than training. Coaching. So I know
100%.
you've got a lot to say about coaching, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the one thing I think about coaching is that it can be bite-sized. It can be simple, quick. That can be the best way for us to retain it and then get it reinforced over that. One of the biggest problems, Janice, is that someone will tell you something and they'll be like, well, I told her what to do, but you didn't remind me. You didn't send it to me in a graphic so I could see it, because I'm a visual learner. That happens. It happens all the time where people say, well, I told them that and they didn't do it. Well, that's because we don't learn that way. We learn through repetition, reinforcement, of bite-sized chunks. Coaching where there's a lesson and, where you can explain something instead of me just saying, well, where are you at? What are your numbers, Janice? What are you going to close at? Because I'd like to kind of figure it out for myself. It's very self-motivated. But if you can say, tell me about a call that you made last week and how did it go? And what would you have done differently? Maybe it didn't go so well. What could you have done differently if you had to do it over again? And maybe you can do it over again, because sometimes you can reach back out to people when you don't have a great conversation and just say, I was a little off yesterday. I totally forgot to mention this to you. I've done this 100 times and people are very receptive. We're much harder in our minds about like, oh, I blew it. I didn't say the most important thing. It's like, you can follow up. Say, Janice, I forgot to mention this one thing. Can I check back with you? Or could we have a quick call on it? and go
I
from
think that's great. It's taking your ego out of it. That's why you're not calling them back.
there.
You know what they think of me, and it's nothing. It's nothing to do with you. It's all to do with
Yeah,
them. Can
yeah,
you offer them something that is going to enable them to get to where they want to be anyway? And coaching changes behaviors. Training does not unless you're doing role playing, or it doesn't change behaviors, and that's the difference.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, we're so hard on ourselves. It's like, just get out of your head, and just try it.
Yeah.
Just give it a try. Just humor me. When I was young, I worked for my grandmother in her clothing store, and a woman would see an outfit that my grandma had for sale, and she would think that it's too. She thinks the size is too big. It's a 12 instead of a 10. I'm a 10. My grandma would say, "Honey, just try it on. Just try it on, and just see what it is." We're so set on black and white and right and wrong, and
Yeah.
there's no gray, and there is a lot of gray.
It's
And,
all
and
grey.
more
It's
gray.
all about whose perspective you're taking, and so my third one is about the perspective of the buyer. That's the perspective we ought to be taking in the way that we organize a sales operation. It's not based upon our sales, it's based upon the buyers buying and how they want to purchase, what is their journey. And so the state of sales, this is Salesforce State of Sales report, said that 76% of customers expect companies to understand their needs and expectations. It's all about the customer. It's not to do with us. And so what we need to do, and what sales leaders need to do, is align their operations around the customer's journey and focus on understanding the buyer's needs. And the benefits to this in terms of creating better feedback loops, in leveraging predictive analytics, and enabling you to streamline your process, cut out the waste if it's not important, if it's not going to focus on that customer's pain point and priorities. If it's not going to understand what their priorities are and understand their language, then all of these are just blocks in the system, and we need to start removing that and increasing customer satisfaction, understanding what would satisfy them. And all of this will lead to at least a 20% growth rate in repeat business. And that's the easy pickings, really, the customers you've already got.
Yeah, and I think one of the easiest things people can start with is to really value other people's time. And instead of me having a 10-minute talk or presentation, uh, maybe they only have 5 minutes. I need
Yeah.
to check with them first and understand what's happening and what they need help with, and see how I can be of help to them and of service to them. I'm here to be of service, and that's what true sellers are. We're lifelong learners, and we are helpers. And so that if you have that mindset, then you can add great value to people that are in need of solutions and need of change.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so what would you say to a sales leader who said, like I've done that, we've all
Doesn't work.
I've done
Right.
that, like we meet them all the time, don't we? That
Yeah.
like they do things in the way that they've always done it, and they will defend the way that they've always done them. So it speaks to your mindset, it speaks to process, and not really brainstorming outside of what they already know, and really focus on what they know, which is the sales process, rather than what I'm talking about, which is the buyer's journey and understanding the buyers more. So what would you say to a sales leader that came out with that kind of statement?
Well, when someone is really defensive, I'll just ask them, are you here to defend what you're doing, or are you looking for change? Now, a lot of times where that happens for me is at a VP level, or head of sales, because they are, after all, responsible for the sales effort, and so I may be a threat to them. I'm better off talking to C-level, talking to company founder, or if it's a bigger company, head of the region or something, because often, not always, but sometimes the leader is part of the problem. And anyone who's an individual contributor who has a leader that doesn't support them knows what I'm talking about. I had 23 managers in my career, and some were awesome, some were awful. So we got to look at everything. We have to look at, and often, if that's the case, that the leader, whoever's running sales, if that's part of the challenge, then we need to tackle that head on. And you and I do that by doing a survey of the whole team and getting feedback from the team about how they coach and what they're being coached on and all those kinds of things. So that's one way. We have a process, you and I, to solve that, which I think is really great.
Yeah, and some people are just not ready for it. We were on a call with a sales leader that said, "Well, I hire 5 with the expectation that I'll get rid of 4," and we were just, "Are we still doing this? Really?" I'm not quite confident. Yeah.
I mean, and not just from a money standpoint, right? But just morale. Like, if you keep seeing all these people being churned, I wouldn't want to work there.
No. So we're happy to go back in a year's time where they've wasted all of this money and say, okay, now do you want to do the process?
Or that leader's gone, unless they're founder or owner or something. But we outlive a lot of those people.
Yeah, we do. And that unfortunately there are a lot in sales, but I speak to so many incredible CROs, sales leaders that have amazing strategies, a great work ethic, a really tight team that are coaching people through the deals. And sometimes I come off the podcast and think, I want to work for them. They're just delightful and supportive. And we can talk about mental health in sales, which previously was a real taboo. And they have an extremely positive mindset.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because certainly is the case. I've run into such amazing leaders in my lifetime as well, and some that I'm going to be talking with in the coming months as well. So very excited about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope everyone's it's food for thought. Are you in the right team? The sales leaders, have you got the right mindset, consistent process? Are you actually brainstorming and looking for new ways of doing things, even looking for new ways of doing things within your team? Are you managing the deal? And focusing on that deal management, and how is that affecting your team and your operation? Are you coaching? Do you need those skills? Do you have the data within your organization? Oh, Stella has just come on. It's absolutely fantastic. Mental health. She's talking about mental health in sales is so important. Absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much for that, Stella. So coaching, and also a customer-centric buying culture. Yes, mental health is really important. And if your sales leader is not dealing with it in a positive way, you really need to think about the culture of the organizations, because it's so critically important. Talking about that. So yes, thank you for that, Stella Rand. Hello, and thank you for joining us. So in our next session with Andy Champion, that's on the 10th. Here is the link. Please make sure that you register and join us. And as I say, please do connect with myself and Lori. And this is our next session. Connect with myself, Lori Richardson, and Janice B. Gordon on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Lori. As always, you're a mind of thought leadership and insight. I really enjoy our sessions. So thank you very much.
I love speaking with you. Thanks, Janice.
All right.